Hi everyone, so today I'm going to walk you through the Applied Behavioral Analysis project so you have a better understanding of what the project entails. So this is one of our signature assignments, which means it's one of our major assignments that will be posted into TaskStream when it is completely finished, as well as Blackboard. And the other EDCI 301 classes are also completing the same assignment. So purpose of this is basically to apply the behavioral principles that you are learning in this class and reading about in the textbook to your real life. So the first thing you're going to do is choose a behavior that you don't particularly like that you have, and you're going to use this project to work to change it. So for example, if you don't like chewing, if you chew your fingernails and you don't like doing that, you like to change that, you can choose that as your behavior. If you eat not very healthy and you'd like to change that and eat more healthy, you can do that. If you don't exercise and you'd like to exercise, you can do that. If you shop a lot and you'd like to not spend so much money, you can do that. If you drink coffee out every day and you want to make coffee at home, you can change that. If you want to wake up earlier, etc. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and it's just personal. So choose one thing that you'd like to change, a behavior that you have that you'd like to change, um, and you're going to be using that behavior throughout this project. So the project's basically broken up into three different parts. Parts 1 and 2 you'll be using for that final paper section. So with week 1, it's due by the end of week 8, which is on Friday, October 12th at midnight. And what you're going to do is choose that behavior that I was just talking about. So choose the behavior you'd like to change and use for this project. And then you are going to create a chart and start recording the baseline data. So this is before you trying to even change that behavior. So let's just use chewing fingernails as an example. And so maybe you keep a little sticky note and mark how many times, every time you catch yourself chewing your fingernails, you'll mark a little tally. And at the end of the day, you'll add them up and you'll put them into a chart. You can either handwrite a chart, take a picture, and attach it to your papers, or you can just create a chart in Excel or a table in Word, or however you want to do it. It's totally fine with me, but you need that representation of your data so we can see how it changes later. So that baseline data, again, you're not changing any behavior, you're just seeing how often you exhibit that behavior, or however else you want to record that data for your behavior. It just kind of depends on what you choose. So you're going to create the chart and record that data throughout week 8. And then you are going to identify the reasons for the current behavior. So are you chewing your nails because you're bored, because you're nervous? Just try and figure out why you're doing that and use some of the information that you've learned from the textbook and from the class to back up why you think that you have that behavior. So this is kind of the things that you'll be doing, and then at the end of week 1, after you've recorded a week of your baseline data, you're going to do a little write-up. So in this write-up, it'll be in APA format, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. And first thing you're going to do is just discuss which behavior you chose and why. So I chose chewing my fingernails because it hurts my fingers and blah, 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 blah. So elaborate a little bit on that. And then you're going to include that chart of your baseline data, and you're also going to explain what patterns you saw. So did you chew your fingernails more when you were in class, or when you were watching TV, or when you were with your friends? And what observations did you make about that initial habit? So include that data chart and explain it. Explain what you see from that chart. And the last thing is the stimulus conditions. So what are the conditions that are contributing to this behavior? Are there any correlations? Are you only chewing your fingernails when you're bored or when you're stressed? Talk about that a little bit. So this week one write-up should be about a page and a half, typed double space, 12 Times New Roman. I'll also include a cover page that you can use in your next paper and in the final behavioral analysis project, because I want to be able to give you some feedback on APA format, and these will also be headings in APA format. So I will talk you through APA format later in this video. So, and so you'll do a similar write-up the next week, week 2, but anything that you use from these 2 write-ups, you can also use in your final paper. You can copy and paste, but I really suggest reading my feedback and changing it to make it correct so I can give you full points and so you can get the most out of the project that you can. And I'll be giving you quite a bit of feedback on the week 1 and week 2 assignments. So that next week, that's due at the end of week 9, you're going to start setting goals. So set some realistic, achievable goals. Maybe it's not, I'm going to stop doing this one thing altogether. Like if you were not eating very healthy, you can, instead of just saying, I'm going to eat healthy 100% of the time, maybe you can implement, I'm going to eat healthy dinners 3 times a week or something like that. Then you are going to remove and encourage stimulus conditions. So you're going to change conditions to assist in modifying your behavior. So we'll talk a little bit about that when I'm talking about the write-up. The next thing you're going to do is identify punishers and reinforcers. So identify the consequences and incentives that could help modify behavior. So are you going to reward yourself if you do a week of healthy eating? And what is going to be your punishment if you don't do it? The next thing you're going to do is actually create a plan. So design a plan that you will be able to follow. So Monday, I'm going to eat a healthy dinner, and this is the healthy dinner I'm going to eat. Same for Wednesday and Friday, or however you want to do it. Again, this is going to be pretty open to how you want to do it. I just want to make sure that you're following the rubric in terms of the things that I'm grading and how I can grade your paper so you're getting the most of it out of the assignment that you can get. And then the last thing is to begin implementing the plan. So implement the plan you designed from weeks 2 to 4 of this assignment. So this is kind of the plan creation, and then the next couple weeks you're going to be implementing what you created here. So for the write-up portion, you are going to talk about your goals. So now that you've analyzed your baseline data behavior that you did last week, what goals did you set and which did you consider but discard? Why did you decide to not go with certain goals? Next thing you're going to do is explain the plan. So explain the stimulus conditions. So which conditions did you encourage and which did you remove and why? So a good example of this is somebody last semester wanted to get their homework done on time or earlier, and one thing that they did was on nights where they had to do homework, they wouldn't hang out with their friends. So that's a stimulus condition that was removed. And maybe like a cell phone or something like that could also be a stimulus condition that you've removed. And then encouraging is maybe just what can you add to stay on track, so, or help you get done what you need to get done. Do you need, like if you were chewing your fingernails, they have that bad tasting fingernail polish that you could put on your nails, and that, so you won't chew them, things like that. And then punishers and reinforcers. So kind of decide on some consequences and some rewards for yourself. So What would a consequence of not meeting your goal be? And what would a great reward be at the end of this? And talk about those a little bit. And this is going to be the same as a week 1 write-up, so this is going to have the APA cover page and headings. And if you use any outside research, then you're going to cite that as well. I'm assuming most of you won't be doing that. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about APA format, but again, it's going to be a 1 to 1.5 page response, 12-point Times New Roman, double spaced. And you can use anything you write up in here to put in your final assignment. And so the next couple weeks, you're going to be implementing this plan that you created in week 2. So you're going to create another chart and record new data, which will be included in your final assignment. And so just make sure that you're keeping up with that data and recording it, because it's really important to see your progress and see what works and see what doesn't. That's why you're removing and adding those punishers and reinforcers and stimulus conditions. So pay attention to what works and what doesn't. And the final project will be due at the end of week 12. And so you will be analyzing all of the data and you're going to write up your analysis. So you're going to use the write-ups that you've used for week 1 and 2. Don't hesitate to use those for this project. I'm totally happy with that, especially if you implement the feedback that I gave you. So each item in bold above must be addressed in the, it's supposed to be below. So each item here is going to be addressed in your final paper. This is going to be 3 to 4 pages, double spaced, Times New Roman, APA format. And so again, with the APA format, you will be using, instead of these that you're using in week 2 for your headers, you're going to use all of these, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in example paper later in this video. So you're going to have your cover page, which you've already created for week 1 and week 2. And if you go to this website, it's super helpful. I love Purdue OWL, and it'll just give you templates and give you examples of how you're supposed to be citing anything. And please don't hesitate to email me or come see me during my office hours on Wednesdays if you need some help with APA formatting, because it kind of takes a while to get used to if you haven't used it before. And I'm super comfortable with it, so honestly, if you have any questions, please ask me. And then the rest of this is going to be a 3 to 4 page analysis of your project. So again, you're going to use APA headers, and I'll talk about the running head and subheadings a little bit later. So you're going to, in your final paper, talk about that target behavior, create an introduction. This will be a final formal paper for this project. You're going to talk about your baseline data and include that first chart, the stimulus conditions, your goals, and then more stimulus conditions, the punishers and reinforcers, and then at the end, what were your results? Include that second data chart as well, and then you're going to be comparing those two. So how successful were you, and how do you know? Explain the differences between your baseline data and your final data, and explain what that new data tells you. And how do you feel about changing this behavior or working to change this behavior? If you do something differently, what would you do? And again, in this project, it is really key to use the information from the textbook to back up your answers throughout this paper. Make sure you're doing that. Okay, so this is the basic project. And all of this stuff will be in the weeks, I think, 7 and 8 folders, as well as on Blackboard. I'll open this up as soon as I post this video. But down here under the assessments, it'll say Applied Behavioral Analysis Project. You click on that, and everything you need to know will be posted in one spot here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the rubric. So this is how you're going to be graded on that final paper. And I really suggest you look through this because um, rubrics are important. You'll be creating rubrics when you're teaching, and it's nice to know exactly how you're going to be graded. I will give you a rubric with your grades for each category at the for the final project. So I really suggest looking through this, making sure that you're hitting all of these things and getting those 4s in each category. And if you're ever questioning anything, again, please just ask me and I will do my best to help you figure out what you need to figure out to do your best on this project. So just read through this rubric. Everything's there. And APA format is also a part of the rubric, so just make sure that you understand how to format your paper correctly. So speaking of formatting, I will go through this really quick. I created this for my high schoolers when I taught high school English and we were moving to APA. And so it's super basic, but if you've never done APA before, I would really like to go through this with you really quick. So if you just read this, this is what you'll need to know for this assignment. And so basically, APA style papers always have a title or cover page, which you will create. An abstract, which you'll create for your final paper. You will not need to create an abstract for weeks 1 and week 2. Then you'll have your paper and you'll have a reference page. And most of you should have probably only the textbook included in that reference page. It'll be Times New Roman 12 font double spaced. You should have a page header, and then I explain how to create that page header here in Microsoft Word. And then for in-text citations, just follow this. So again, you'll probably only be using the textbook. So you'll use the author's last name, which is Woolfolk, and then you'll do comma and the publication date, which I do not remember. I think it might be 2014, but just double check and make sure. And so that's how you do the in-text citations. And then this is for the title page, so you will write your name, you'll write the title of your paper, and then you'll write the University of Idaho. You'll have a running head, and then this is just tips for citing a book, using that reference page, and there are websites and stuff that will help you, but you just gotta double check and make sure everything is how it should be. I would just double check with the Purdue OWL website because sometimes if you use Citation Machine or EasyBib, it won't do it 100% correctly, and so you'll just have to make a couple of tweaks there. And so, but if you look through this is just the basics of APA format, and then I think this, yeah. So I also included this, which is a sample paper, and this is what a APA title head or title page should look like. So you'll have your running head up here, and it's kind of weird, but you write running head on that first page with the colon, and then in all caps, this is your title. And so it'll say Applied Behavioral Analysis Project, or however you want to title this paper. And then you will also have your page number there. And then near the middle of the page, you'll have your title, you'll have your name, and then you'll have the University of Idaho. You will not need to create an author's note. The next page, the next page will be your abstract. So you don't indent this in at all. This is just one block of text, and it's just a quick summary of what your paper's about. So this paper explores a change of chewing my fingernail, or a change of behavior of me chewing my fingernails, blah, 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 blah. This is what I found, and this is what I had to do throughout the project. Okay? And then this is the first real, I guess, page of your paper. So, don't worry about putting the title up here. because that's not supposed to be there. But then down here, these are where your subheadings go. So they are going to be bolded in the center of the page. If there's a subheading, it's going to be bolded. Let's see, anything around here? Bolded aligned left. So for example, discussion was the major subheading here, and then bolded aligned left are more information organizing those subheadings to the left. So if I go back to maybe your final assignment, yeah, so this will be its own centered bolded subheading, the introduction. Baseline data, own centered bold subheading. This is going to be the same. This is going to be the same. And then the plan will be its own centered bold subheading, and then these will be aligned to the left of it. And then you'll write your conclusion, and this will also be centered bold. So everything, so these things will be aligned to the left, just maybe, sorry, just like these guys. So it'll say the plan here, and then it will say your results, your punishers and reinforcers, and whatever else was right here. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please ask me. I'm around. I can meet with you if you can't meet during my office hours, which are Wednesday between 2:45 and 3:45 in EDCI or in Ed 400. And I can meet most times. Or if you want to email me, I try to explain my best through email as well. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions about this or anything else in the class. I feel free, yeah, so just feel free to contact me. And we can meet or we can chat through email, and I will help you the best that I can. I am excited to read your papers and read what you chose and what you learned from the behaviorists in the textbook. So, any questions, please contact me. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye.